A marinade can be a great way to add flavor, retain moisture, and tenderize your food. It's a very useful tool when used with the right type of protein and the right size. Marinating is a great technique for backyard grilling and when you're going to cook at high heat in an oven. My name is Chef Jeremy with Lineage Culinary, and today I'm going to show you how to make an easy marinade. Okay, so first thing you want to do is add your acidic component, and for this recipe we're using lemon juice and white wine vinegar. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into my blender here, and now I'm going to add all of my seasonings. So I've got some parsley, some dried herbs, some salt, and some brown sugar. Now the herbs and seasonings are going to add flavor to our marinade. The salt is important because the salt will help the marinade to penetrate the meat. Sugar helps to balance out that flavor also. Remember, we've got a lot of acidity in here, so you're going to need that sugar to balance that out and round it out. Now also to round it out, we're going to need some oil. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that oil in here, and this is vegetable oil. And the oil will also help round out that flavor. It'll cut through that acid and help balance things out. It'll also help the meat to retain moisture. Now, as you can see, everything's really separated. I've got my water-based liquids at the bottom. That's my vinegar and my lemon juice, and then my oil is floating on top. So we need this to come together. So I'm going to put this in the blender and just blend until it's emulsified. I forgot to mention earlier, I also have mustard in here. That mustard seed will act as an emulsifier that will help keep my oil and vinegar together. But even if this separates, before I use it, I just shake it up and give it a good shake. There, now you can see everything is all nice and together. Everything is emulsified. That's going to work really nicely. So I'm going to portion this into probably about half cup portions and freeze this and then pull as I need when I'm going to marinate. Okay, now what I have here is some boneless and skinless chicken thighs, which I love on the grill. And this is a pretty thin cut here, so this isn't going to take long to marinate. I'm going to marinate this for probably about an hour, and then it'll be ready to go on the grill. So I'm going to place these in a Ziploc bag, pour my marinade in there, and like I said, that's about a half cup. I've got the rest of my marinade split into 2 half-cup portions. This recipe makes 1.5 cups, and I'm going to freeze that. You can use it for about 7 days. If you're not going to use it after 7 days, I would freeze it and then thaw it as needed. Get the air out of that bag. And then I like to just kind of massage the meat, make sure that marinade is getting all over the surface of everything. And then I'm going to put that back in refrigeration for about 2 hours. Now, a couple things about marinades. You always want to marinate under refrigeration. You don't want to marinate at room temperature because you want your meat to stay nice and cold. We're working with raw proteins here. Now, the acid in the marinade will tenderize, but if you leave the product in the marinade too long, it can be over marinated. And what will happen is the meat will either become tough or it will start to break down and become mushy. So you want to be careful with that. So some general guidelines, and this is really going to depend on the size of the meat, the type of protein you're using, and how acidic your marinade is. So these are just general guidelines. It's really going to depend on every specific incident. Seafood is easy to over marinate, so be careful with seafood. Now I typically go 30 minutes on seafood. I wouldn't go longer than an hour. Now with chicken and pork, I think if you got cut like this, you can go an hour or two, up to about 24 hours. Again, it's going to depend on the size. For beef, I would only marinate certain types of beef. Now you want to marinate tougher cuts like sirloin, skirt, flank, hanger, round steak. Those types of things work great in marinade. I would not recommend marinating a ribeye or a strip or a fillet. In certain cases you can, but in general, those cuts really don't need a marinade. So I would recommend against that. Again, these are just guidelines. You can always marinate. If you want to marinate a fillet, no problem. I would say generally, I would stick to those tougher cuts. For beef, I would go a few hours to about 24 hours. Now the size is also important when you're marinating. You can see my chicken here is relatively small. The marinade is only going to penetrate so far. It will definitely flavor the outside and it will seep into the meat to a point, but it's not going to go super deep. So if you've got a really large roast, marinating is not going to do much to the inside of that meat. So for big pieces, I would recommend cutting that down into smaller pieces so the marinade can be more effective. I hope that was helpful. I'm Chef Jeremy with Lineage Culinary. Thank you for watching.